NFL. And as we all know, the biggest thing happening in the NFL right now is the Julio Jones trade rumors, basically confirmed because Shannon Sharp recorded Julio Jones without him knowing. And Julio said basically that, yeah, he wants to get traded and he wants to play for a contender. And there's been tons of rumors about where Julio wants to go. And the list of teams really is pretty much the Ravens, the Patriots, the Rams, the Chargers, and some other teams also thrown in there. Really, there's been rumors for pretty much every team because any team wants Julio Jones at this point because he's the best wide receiver in pro football. He had injury problems last year, yes, but the stats speak for themselves. Julio Jones is the best wide receiver in the past decade consistently. And he's just a game changer for any team. And the trade value that has been assigned to Julio Jones makes sense for his age, yes, but for the player that he is, it's a bargain. And I think any team, like a second round pick is basically what he's been assessed at by some major reporters. And there's also been reports saying that the Falcons will only accept the first round pick for him. And yes, that makes sense. And I think that's really where his value should be. But unfortunately, for the Falcons, it appears that, once guys get over the 30-year-old mark, they go generally for later round picks. That's just how it works. They don't go for first rounders because you don't have that longevity that you have with younger players. Like Amari Cooper went for a first round pick. Even after having a little bit of a slump year. Not really. It's Amari Cooper. He still had a good year, but you know what I mean. He went for a first round pick because he was like 25 still or something like that at that time. And he was an elite wide receiver. Everybody knew his potential, and that's why Dallas gave him a first round pick for him. Julio, it's different because he's 32. He's coming off an injury, a year where he wasn't really able to get on the field as much as you would have liked him to. So he's going to demand more of a second round pick. Now, with some of these teams that are interested in him, I don't really get why. For example, starting off with the Ravens. The Ravens really shouldn't be spending a lot on the wide receiver position anymore. They addressed their needs in the draft. And I know that people are like, Ravens fans wanted wide receivers, and they were concerned you need to get Lamar weapons. He didn't have enough. He only had Hollywood Brown as his number one, and that's just simply not enough, and I totally agree. But through the draft, they drafted Rashad Bateman with their first-round pick. Great wide receiver out of Minnesota. They also drafted Tylan Wallace, who I value at a second round, who went in the fourth, I believe. To them, a big steal. You have Hollywood Brown still there. James Prochet, if you still want to develop him. I mean, you have wide receivers on this roster, and I'm not even sure Julio will do Lamar good enough because, again, I still don't have that confidence in Lamar's throwing. And Julio could be a great mentor to these wide receivers, yes. But the wide receiver room, as of right now, I think is fine. For the Ravens, I think their room is completely fine. I think you could leave it as it is. And I think that's honestly what's best for the Baltimore Ravens and what's best for Rashad Bateman's development and what's best for Tylan Wallace's development. Because if you're going to stick them behind Julio and you're going to have this kind of full wide receiver room, you have young guys there. You want to get them playing time. And I just think that the Ravens would be fine without getting Julio. And even if they did get Julio, I still don't see the Ravens as a Super Bowl contender because I just don't have the confidence in Lamar Jackson. Now, looking at it from an organizational perspective, maybe they do think that Julio would get them over the hump. And if they think they're not at that point right now, and they think Julio can get them over the hump, and get them to be a Super Bowl contender, pull the trigger, absolutely. But I just think that Julio's not going to get them there, and I think they're not there already. I think the path is to just let the younger guys develop. They're not they're not going to be horrible this year. Certainly not. Their wide receiver core is improved. Their defense is relatively the same. Departures of Matt Judon might hurt a little bit, but I think the Ravens are going to be okay. I just think the path right now is not so much win necessarily like overpay to win now. It's just let it play its course at this point. You address the wide receiver in the draft. You do not need to overpay for it. Do not risk your future in going for Julio Jones. Don't do it. Because you guys don't have the quarterback to utilize a weapon like that to get you a Super Bowl win. The next one that I don't quite understand is in for Julio Jones is the Los Angeles Rams. Now, if the Rams want to go all in, it makes a little bit of sense, but at the same time, they're in cap hell still, to some extent. They've been having cap problems. Julio carries like a $38 million cap number if he stays with Atlanta. I'm not sure what his cap hit is if he got traded, but still, I mean, having a cap hit that big, or he has a $15 million salary. Having that big of a cap hit going into a team that's struggling with cap problems, you're just going to turn into the Falcons, but better overall team. But you do not want to have those problems and have that. I mean, they've already given up a ton of draft picks in the Stafford trade. So how are you even going to manage to get Julio? You're basically destroying your whole entire future to go in and get Julio. When I think, I said when they got Stafford, I like the Rams as my favorite for the Super Bowl this year so far. I think Matthew Stafford with the Rams, with a core of Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, can get them. Tyler Higbee also a good weapon there. Cam Akers in the backfield. I think that offense is really good, and it's good enough to get the Rams to a Super Bowl and maybe win one. I view them right now as the best team in the NFC, even with the Bucs pretty much retaining all their stuff. Because McVay's such a good coach. I feel like McVay over Arians is clear, despite Arians winning the Super Bowl. Then again, he gave up pretty much all control to Brady this season and basically just rode him to the Super Bowl. That Super Bowl was not Arians at all. Anybody that says so, I dismiss you. McVay brought Jared Goff to the Super Bowl, made Jared Goff look good. Now you're actually giving him a great quarterback. Goff is good to average. Matthew Stafford is great. He was just in a bad situation in Detroit. Detroit never gave him anything, or never gave him like a complete winning situation. They gave him Calvin Johnson and said, okay, you two just carry the team. And they did to some extent. They just, when you only have two guys, you can only get so far. Now Stafford's with the Rams. You got Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee, Cam Akers. You got a good offensive line, Whitworth at left tackle, good protection. And you got a great defense anchored by Aaron Donald. Do you need Julio Jones? Jalen Ramsey also. Can't forget him. Best cornerback in the game. Do you need Julio Jones? The rich could get richer, but then again, what's going to happen when all these guys retire? Because it's an aging team, yes. You've already given up a lot of picks. You guys have a 3-year window. You guys want to be in a good spot coming out of this hopefully deep 3-year type of run, trying to go get a Super Bowl for the Rams. The Rams want to have a future. And if you're trading for Julio, I can't see them coming out of it with a future at all. You guys already got Deshaun Jackson too to sign with you. And you drafted, I believe, Tutu Atwell in the second round. You guys drafted a wide receiver. It's the same as the Ravens. You already invested in the wide receiver position during the draft, and you already, in the first place, probably didn't even have to do that. I was puzzled in the draft why they actually went a wide receiver, especially Tutu Atwell in the second round. More of a fourth round grade on him. But still, I mean, how do you do that at all? I can't understand Julio on the Rams at all. We'll be right back in just a second. We're going to take a quick break. And now back to Julio Jones.